Welcome to Hearts Uncharted, the podcast where we dive deep into the unpredictable, thrilling, and sometimes stormy seas of love. I'm your host, ChattyGinger, and in each podcast, we will set sail on a journey to explore the hidden depths of the human heart. Whether it's the exhilaration of a first love, the painful echoes of heartbreak, or the joy of rediscovering passion, we are here to chart the course. Our stories will take you to places where emotions run high and love knows no boundaries. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and join me as we uncover tales of romance that are as uncharted as the oceans themselves. This is Hearts Uncharted, where love's greatest adventures await. Episode 2, The Hidden Equation of Love. Prologue. New York City was a place of endless possibilities and brutal realities. Its streets teemed with life, its skyscrapers touched the clouds, and its people were always in motion, caught in the ceaseless rhythm of ambition and survival. The city had seen everything, lovers meeting under its streetlights, dreams both broken and born in its crowded apartments, and secrets buried beneath its concrete. It was a city that held your secrets as long as you could keep up with its pace. For Nina Alvarez, New York was both a sanctuary and a battlefield. She had come here, like many, with dreams bigger than the reality she'd left behind. The daughter of Puerto Rican immigrants, she'd always been told that with hard work, anything was possible. Nina had taken those words to heart, climbing her way into the world of academia, determined to make a name for herself in the male-dominated field of physics. But dreams had a way of becoming tangled with reality. Despite her brilliance, Nina found herself stuck as an adjunct professor, grading endless papers, and hoping for the one opportunity that could change her life. The position was a far cry from her aspirations of conducting groundbreaking research, or making a name for herself as a respected physicist. She needed a way to bridge the gap between her current situation and her future, a way to sustain herself while she waited for her big break. That's where her other life came in. By night, Nina transformed. She slipped into elegant dresses, styled her dark hair, and stepped into a world far removed from chalkboards and lecture halls. As a paid companion, she was a chameleon, adopting whatever personality her clients needed. She was an intellectual conversationalist, a charming date, or the perfect woman to impress at social events. It wasn't about sex, it was about presence, company, the illusion of intimacy. Nina had rules, carefully constructed to keep her lives separate. She never mixed work with pleasure, never got too close to a client, and never, ever let her real emotions slip through. It was a job, a performance, and she was an expert at playing her part. But life in New York was unpredictable, and the rules Nina lived by were about to be tested in ways she never could have imagined. Chapter 1, The Double Life. The morning sun streamed through the dusty windows of Nina's modest Brooklyn apartment, illuminating the stacks of physics journals and piles of student essays that cluttered her desk. Her laptop screen displayed a maze of equations, each one a step closer to understanding the mysteries of quantum entanglement, her secret obsession. As Nina took a sip of her rapidly cooling coffee, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. "Need you tonight," read the text from Marsha, her handler in the world of high-end companionship. Marsha had a knack for finding the most interesting, and often the most demanding, clients. Nina had worked with her for over a year, and Marsha knew how to pick the ones who wouldn't ask too many questions. "Who is it?" Nina typed back, her fingers flying over the screen. "New guy, big deal, ex-Wall Street, now a tech guru, wants smart conversation. Dinner at the Astoria, 8 p.m. Can you do it?" Nina hesitated for a moment, glancing at the stack of ungraded papers on her desk. Then she sighed. She needed the money, and besides, a night out at the Astoria, a luxury restaurant she could never afford on her own, sounded better than another night in with instant noodles. "I'm in," she replied, setting her phone down. As she prepared for the evening, Nina reflected on the irony of her life. She'd once thought her greatest challenges would be solving complex equations and uncovering the secrets of the universe. Instead, she found herself navigating the delicate dance of deception, balancing her academic ambitions with the realities of surviving in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Her double life required a constant state of readiness, and Nina had become adept at the quick change, both physically and emotionally. By 8 p.m., Nina had transformed. She wore a sleek black dress that hugged her curves, her dark hair was styled into soft waves, and her makeup was subtle but impeccable. The persona she wore was confident, poised, a woman at ease in any situation. The woman who opened the door to her client at the Astoria was not the same woman who had been grading papers in her Brooklyn apartment. "Mr. Richardson?" Nina asked, extending her hand with a charming smile. The man standing before her was tall, with broad shoulders and a square jaw that gave him a look of authority. He was handsome in a polished, almost intimidating way, with the kind of confidence that came from years of success. He took her hand, his grip firm but not overly so. "Daniel, please," he said, his voice smooth and low. "You must be Nina." "Marsha was right, you are stunning." "Thank you," Nina replied, her smile never wavering. "Shall we?" Dinner with Daniel was easy. He was intelligent and engaging, clearly used to commanding the attention of a room. They talked about his work in tech, his decision to leave Wall Street, and his passion for innovation. Nina listened intently, asking the right questions, laughing at his jokes, and providing insights that made him raise his eyebrows in pleasant surprise. "You're not just a pretty face, are you?" Daniel said with a grin as the waiter cleared their dessert plates. Nina laughed, a sound she had perfected to convey both charm and modesty. "I like to think I have a few thoughts worth sharing," she said lightly. As the evening drew to a close, Nina felt the familiar satisfaction of a job well done. Daniel was clearly impressed, both with her appearance and her intellect. He hinted at wanting to see her again, and Nina, keeping to her rules, maintained a polite, non-committal stance. "I'd love that," she said, not making any promises. Daniel watched her closely, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "You know, I get the feeling there's more to you than meets the eye," he said softly. "I'd like to find out what that is." Nina smiled, her heart beating a little faster. "I think some mysteries are best left unsolved," she replied, standing to leave. As she walked away, she felt Daniel's eyes on her, a feeling both thrilling and dangerous. Nina knew better than to get involved, knew how to keep her distance. But as she stepped into the cool night air, she couldn't shake the sense that her carefully constructed life was about to change in ways she couldn't control. Chapter 2, Collision Course. The week following her dinner with Daniel was a whirlwind. Nina's life was a blur of early morning lectures, long hours in the library, and late nights preparing for the upcoming physics conference. She barely had time to think about Daniel, or the feeling of his eyes on her as she'd left the Astoria. Her thoughts were consumed with her presentation, a paper on quantum entanglement that she hoped would catch the attention of the academic community. The conference was being held at a prestigious hotel in Midtown, a gathering of some of the most brilliant minds in the field. For Nina, it was more than just an opportunity to share her research. It was a chance to network, to make connections that could lead to the tenure-track position she so desperately wanted. On the first day of the conference, Nina stood at the back of a crowded room, watching as a tall, lean man took the stage. His name was James Whitaker, a physicist whose reputation preceded him. He was known for his cutting-edge research and his ruthless approach to academic politics. Nina had heard stories of his brilliance, but also of the controversies he'd stirred, particularly his public takedown of her former mentor, Dr. Leonard Chase. Chase had been a rising star in the world of theoretical physics until an experiment he'd championed was publicly debunked by Whitaker. The fallout had been swift and devastating, leaving Chase's career in tatters and making Whitaker both feared and respected. Nina watched as James began his presentation, his voice calm and authoritative. He spoke about his latest research with an intensity that captivated the audience, his piercing blue eyes scanning the room as if daring anyone to challenge him. There was a magnetic quality to him, a confidence that bordered on arrogance. As the session ended, Nina found herself drawn to the front of the room, eager to introduce herself. She hesitated for a moment, then pushed through the crowd, her heart racing. "Dr. Whitaker," she said, extending her hand. "Nina Alvarez. I'm a physicist as well, specializing in quantum theory." James turned to look at her, his expression unreadable. He took her hand, his grip firm. "Nice to meet you, Nina. Are you presenting at the conference?" "Yes, tomorrow. I'm discussing my research on quantum entanglement," Nina said, feeling a flush of nerves. James's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of interest sparking in them. Entanglement, huh? Fascinating topic. I'll make sure to attend. I always enjoy seeing how different minds approach the same problems. Nina nodded, her pulse quickening. As they spoke, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on the edge of something significant. James's presence was commanding, almost overwhelming, and she found herself both drawn to and wary of him. Just as she was about to say more, a familiar voice interrupted them. Nina. What a surprise. She turned to see Daniel approaching, a look of delight on his face. He was dressed in a tailored suit, his hair perfectly styled, exuding an easy charm. Nina felt a flicker of shock, quickly masked by a smile. Daniel, I didn't expect to see you here, she said, trying to keep her tone casual. James looked between them, a curious expression on his face. You two know each other. Nina hesitated, choosing her words carefully. We've met, she said, glancing at Daniel. Daniel grinned, extending his hand to his brother. Nina, this is my older brother, James. James, this is Nina Alvarez, the most intriguing woman I've met in a long time. Nina's mind raced as the pieces fell into place. The Whitaker brothers. Of course, she should have seen it. The resemblance was there in the sharp lines of their features, the intensity of their gaze. But where Daniel was warm and inviting, James was cold and distant. James raised an eyebrow, a small smile playing at his lips. Intriguing, is she? Well, I'll look forward to your presentation, Ms. Alvarez, he said, his eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. Nina felt a chill run down her spine, a sense that the world she'd carefully built was about to shift. She was standing at the intersection of her two lives, and for the first time, she wasn't sure which direction to take. Chapter 3, The Dilemma. The next morning, Nina woke early, nerves tightening in her stomach as she prepared for her presentation. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her blazer, taking a deep breath to steady herself. Today was important. A chance to prove herself in a room full of the brightest minds in physics, including James Whitaker. As she made her way to the conference hall, her thoughts kept drifting to the Whitaker brothers. Daniel's charm and easy conversation had been a welcome distraction, but it was James's intense gaze and commanding presence that lingered in her mind. She wondered what he thought of her, if he saw her as just another young physicist trying to make a name for herself, or if he saw more. The room was packed when Nina stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding. She looked out at the sea of faces, seeing James near the front, his eyes fixed on her. Taking a deep breath, Nina began her presentation, diving into the complexities of quantum entanglement, explaining the delicate dance of particles separated by vast distances yet inexplicably connected. As she spoke, her nerves faded, replaced by the familiar rush of excitement she felt whenever she delved into her work. Physics was her passion, the one place where everything made sense, where she could lose herself in the beauty of the equations and the mysteries of the universe. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, and Nina felt a wave of relief. She had done it. As she stepped down from the podium, James approached her, his expression thoughtful. Well done, Nina, he said, his voice low. Your insights into entanglement are impressive. It's rare to see someone with such a deep understanding of both the theory and the practical applications. Nina felt a flush of pride. Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. That means a lot coming from you. James studied her for a moment, his blue eyes piercing. I look forward to discussing your work further. Perhaps over dinner. Before Nina could respond, Daniel appeared at her side, a broad smile on his face. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said, glancing between them. Nina, you were incredible. You've got quite a fan in my brother, it seems. Nina smiled, feeling the tension between the brothers. Thank you, Daniel. I'd be happy to discuss my research with both of you. As they made plans for dinner, Nina felt a sense of unease. The Whitaker brothers were powerful figures in their respective fields, and she was acutely aware of the precariousness of her position. The tangled web of personal and professional interests was becoming more intricate by the day. She couldn't help but wonder what she was getting herself into. That evening, they met at an upscale bistro, a short walk from the conference venue. The restaurant's dim lighting and intimate atmosphere set the perfect stage for the conversation that was to come. Nina arrived first, nervously checking her reflection in the mirror by the door, adjusting her hair, and smoothing out the creases in her blouse. Her usual composure was beginning to crack, revealing the apprehensive woman beneath the confident exterior. Daniel and James arrived together, creating a striking contrast as they walked through the entrance. Daniel, with his easygoing charm, exuded warmth, while James, with his cool and intense demeanor, radiated authority. Nina felt like she was caught between two forces, each pulling her in a different direction. They exchanged pleasantries, ordered drinks, and made small talk about the conference. But as the evening progressed, the conversation took on a sharper edge, a subtle undercurrent of rivalry emerging between the brothers. Nina couldn't help but notice how they interacted, James with his sharp wit and probing questions, Daniel with his affable nature, and occasional jabs at his brother's intensity. "Nina, I have to ask," Daniel said, leaning forward, his gaze fixed on her. "How did you get into physics? It's not exactly a common path for someone as multifaceted as you." Nina smiled, choosing her words carefully. "I've always been fascinated by the way the universe works. Physics, for me, is like trying to understand the mind of God. It's about finding order in chaos, seeing the patterns in the seemingly random. It's the challenge of solving a puzzle that may never have a solution, but the pursuit itself is worth it." James nodded approvingly. A philosopher as well as a physicist. It's a rare combination. Too many in our field forget that science isn't just about numbers and equations. It's about understanding our place in the world. Nina glanced at James, surprised by his thoughtful response. There was more to him than the cold, calculating scientist she had heard about. She felt a flicker of connection, a sense that he understood her in a way few did. Daniel raised his glass, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "To the pursuit of knowledge, and the brilliant minds who keep pushing the boundaries," he said, his gaze lingering on Nina. They clinked glasses, and for a moment, the tension dissolved, replaced by the shared camaraderie of three intellectuals lost in their passions. But as the night wore on, Nina couldn't shake the feeling that she was being tested, that the brothers were each trying to gauge her loyalty, her interests, her weaknesses. When dinner ended, they stepped outside, the cool night air a welcome relief from the heat of the restaurant. James checked his watch, a slight frown on his face. "I have an early session tomorrow. Thank you for the stimulating conversation, Nina. I look forward to seeing more of your work." He nodded to Daniel and walked away, his figure disappearing into the shadows of the city. Daniel turned to Nina, his expression thoughtful. "He likes you, you know," he said, his voice low. Nina looked at him, trying to read his expression. "And what about you, Daniel? What do you think?" Daniel smiled, his eyes softening. "I think you're remarkable, Nina. And I also think you're in way over your head with James. He's not like the others. He doesn't play by the same rules." Nina felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "James is brilliant, but he's ruthless. He'll do whatever it takes to get what he wants. He's already destroyed one career, and I don't want to see him do the same to you." Nina took a step back, her mind racing. "I'm not going to let anyone destroy my career," she said, her voice steady. "I can handle myself." Daniel watched her, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I hope so, Nina. Because once you're in his orbit, it's hard to break free." Nina turned away, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. She had spent her life fighting to be taken seriously, to be seen for her intellect and not just her looks. Now, she was faced with two men who saw her in ways she wasn't sure she could handle. As she walked back to her apartment, Nina knew one thing for certain. Her carefully constructed life was unraveling, and there was no way to stop it. Chapter 4, Into the Web. Over the next few days, Nina found herself drawn deeper into the Whitaker brothers' world. James attended her lectures and sought her out during the conference breaks, engaging her in long conversations about quantum theory, challenging her ideas, pushing her to think in new ways. His intellect was captivating, his passion infectious, and Nina found herself looking forward to their debates, despite the warning bells ringing in her mind. Daniel, on the other hand, was a comforting presence. He was a welcome distraction, taking her out for coffee, showing her hidden spots in the city, and making her laugh with his stories. He was open, easy to talk to, and always seemed to know when she needed a break from the intense world of academia. One evening, After a particularly heated debate with James about the implications of quantum entanglement on time travel, Nina received a text from Daniel. "Dinner tonight. Just us. No physics talk. Promise." Nina smiled at her phone, feeling a wave of relief. She needed a break, a chance to step back and breathe. She texted back her agreement, then quickly changed into something casual before heading out to meet him. They met at a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, a cozy spot with checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic in the air. Daniel was already there, waving at her from a corner table. He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair with a gallant flourish. "I'm so glad you came," he said, his smile genuine. "I thought you could use a break from my brother's intensity." Nina laughed, taking a sip of the wine he'd ordered. "You're not wrong. James has a way of making me feel like I'm constantly being tested." Daniel nodded, his expression serious. "That's just who he is. He's been like that since we were kids, always pushing, always challenging. But you should know, he respects you. He doesn't engage with just anyone like that." Nina tilted her head, studying Daniel. "And you? How do you see me?" Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I see a brilliant woman who's juggling more than anyone should have to. I see someone who's trying to find her place in a world that's not always kind to those who don't fit the mold. And I see someone I'd like to get to know better, outside of all this." He gestured vaguely, indicating the conference, their professional lives, everything that kept them apart. Nina's heart skipped a beat. Daniel was genuine, kind, and she couldn't deny the attraction she felt towards him. But there was also James, with his mind that challenged hers in ways she had never experienced before. The two brothers were pulling her in different directions, and she was caught in the middle, unsure which path to take. As they walked back to her apartment that night, Nina felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Daniel walked beside her, his arm casually slung around her shoulders, his presence warm and comforting. But in the back of her mind, she could see James's piercing eyes, feel the intensity of his gaze. "Thank you for tonight," Nina said as they reached her building. "I needed this." Daniel smiled, leaning in to kiss her cheek. "Anytime, Nina. You're not alone in this, remember that." As she watched him walk away, Nina felt a pang of guilt. She liked Daniel, genuinely, but there was a part of her that craved the intellectual challenge James offered, the thrill of their debates, the way he made her feel like she was on the edge of something extraordinary. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she pulled it out to see a message from James. "Dinner tomorrow. I have a proposition for you." Nina stared at the screen, her mind spinning. She was being pulled into a web of intrigue, and she wasn't sure if she was the spider or the fly. Chapter 5, The Proposition. The next evening, Nina found herself sitting across from James at a quiet, upscale restaurant. The room was elegantly decorated, with soft lighting and plush seating that created an intimate atmosphere. James had chosen a private corner, away from the prying eyes of the other diners, and as Nina sat down, she couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. James was different tonight, more relaxed, less guarded. He ordered a bottle of red wine, and as the waiter poured, he studied Nina with those intense blue eyes that seemed to see right through her. "I've been thinking about your research," James began, swirling the wine in his glass. "Your ideas on quantum entanglement are intriguing, but I think they lack a certain practical application." Nina raised an eyebrow. "Practical application? We're talking about quantum physics, James. Not everything needs to have a practical application." James leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "True, but imagine if we could. Imagine if we could harness entanglement to develop a new form of communication, faster than anything we've ever seen. Imagine the implications for security, for data transfer, for intelligence. It would revolutionize everything." Nina felt a surge of excitement. "You mean quantum cryptography?" James nodded. "Exactly, and I want you to help me develop it." Nina blinked, taken aback. "You want me to work with you?" James smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Yes. We could make history, Nina. You have the theoretical knowledge, and I have the resources and the connections to make it happen. Together, we could achieve something truly remarkable." Nina's mind raced. It was an incredible opportunity, one that could propel her career to new heights. But she couldn't ignore the warning in Daniel's voice, the caution in his eyes when he spoke of his brother. "What's the catch?" Nina asked, her voice steady. James's smile widened. "No catch, just ambition. You're a brilliant physicist, Nina, and you deserve to be recognized for it. I can give you that recognition, the platform to showcase your work on a global scale. All you have to do is say yes." Nina took a sip of her wine, her thoughts a whirlwind of possibilities. This was what she had always wanted, to be seen, to be valued for her intellect. But was she willing to get entangled with James, knowing what Daniel had warned her about? "I need time to think about it," she said finally. James nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "Of course, but don't take too long, Nina. Opportunities like this don't come around often." As they finished dinner, Nina felt a sense of unease. James was offering her the world, but at what cost? As she walked back to her apartment, she couldn't help but feel like a pawn in a game she didn't fully understand. The Whitaker brothers were playing a dangerous game, and she was caught in the middle, unsure of who to trust. When she reached her building, she found Daniel waiting for her, leaning against the door with a casual grace that sent her heart racing. "Nina," he said, his voice warm. "I was hoping to catch you." Nina smiled, though her mind was still on James's proposition. "What's up?" Daniel hesitated, then stepped closer, his expression serious. "I don't know what James has said to you, but I want you to know that you don't have to go along with his plans. You have options, Nina. Don't let him make you think you don't." Nina felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it, but this is my decision, and I need to figure it out for myself." Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "Just know that whatever you decide, I'm here for you, always." Nina watched him walk away, feeling torn between the two brothers, each offering her a different future. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Nina knew one thing: the choices she made in the coming days would change everything. She was standing at the crossroads of her life, and the path she chose would determine her destiny. Chapter 6, Lines Blurred. Nina couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts of James's proposition and Daniel's warnings. The brothers represented two very different worlds. James offered ambition, power, and a chance to make a name for herself that would be remembered in the annals of scientific history. Daniel offered warmth, comfort, and the promise of companionship. Both were appealing, but Nina knew she couldn't have both. Morning came too soon, and Nina dragged herself out of bed, feeling the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. As she made her way to the conference, she resolved to keep her focus on her work. She needed to think clearly, and the only way to do that was to immerse herself in the familiar logic of physics. But as soon as she arrived, she felt the eyes of the Whitaker brothers on her. James was standing near the coffee table, talking animatedly with a group of colleagues. His eyes flicked to her as she entered, a subtle acknowledgement that sent a shiver down her spine. Across the room, Daniel was chatting with another group, his easy smile lighting up his face. He caught her eye and gave her a small wave, his expression softening as he looked at her. Nina felt like a magnet caught between two opposing poles, each one pulling her in a different direction. She busied herself with her notes, trying to focus on her presentation scheduled for later that day. She would speak on quantum superposition and its potential applications, a topic that had always fascinated her. She hoped that losing herself in the complexities of quantum states would provide a distraction from the turmoil brewing in her personal life. As she prepared to take the stage, James approached her, his expression inscrutable. "Ready for your presentation?" he asked, his voice low. Nina nodded, her heart pounding. "Yes, I think so." James stepped closer, his eyes boring into hers. "Remember, Nina, everything you do here matters. People are watching. Make sure they see what you're capable of." Nina swallowed hard, nodding again. "I will." As she walked onto the stage, she felt the weight of James's gaze, the pressure to perform perfectly. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus on the task at hand. The audience quieted, and Nina began her presentation, her voice steady and confident. She explained the principles of quantum superposition, illustrating her points with complex diagrams and real-world applications. As she spoke, she felt herself slipping into the familiar rhythm of teaching, the thrill of sharing knowledge, of watching the light of understanding spark in her audience's eyes. For a moment, she forgot about James and Daniel, about the decisions looming over her, and lost herself in the joy of her work. When she finished, the room erupted in applause, and Nina felt a surge of pride. She had done it. She had shown them all what she was capable of. As she stepped down from the podium, James was there, a smile of approval on his face. "Well done," he said, his voice soft enough that only she could hear. "You were brilliant, Nina. This is just the beginning." Nina felt a warm glow of satisfaction at his praise, but it was quickly overshadowed by a sense of dread. James's words were laced with a promise, a reminder of the proposition he had made. She thanked him and made her way through the crowd, searching for Daniel. She needed to talk to him, to clear her head. She found him outside the conference center, leaning against a railing, his face turned towards the sun. He looked up as she approached, a smile breaking across his face. "You were amazing," he said, pulling her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you, Nina." Nina leaned into his embrace, feeling a sense of comfort she hadn't realized she needed. She pulled back, looking up at him. "Daniel, I need to talk to you about something." "About James?" Daniel's expression darkened. "What about him?" Nina hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "He made me an offer to work with him on developing quantum cryptography. He thinks we could revolutionize communication technology." Daniel's jaw tightened. "And what did you say?" "I haven't decided yet," Nina said. "It's an incredible opportunity, but I don't know. Something about it doesn't feel right." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Nina, I know my brother. He's not offering this because he wants to work with you. He's offering it because he wants to control you, to use your talent for his own gain." Nina frowned. "Why would he want to control me? What does he get out of it?" Daniel looked away, his expression troubled. "Power. Influence. James thrives on being the smartest person in the room, the one with all the answers. And if he can't be that, he makes sure he's the one pulling the strings. He's already destroyed one career, Nina. Don't let him do the same to you." Nina felt a chill run down her spine. "What career?" Daniel hesitated, then sighed. "There was a professor at MIT, a brilliant experimental physicist named Dr. Rebecca Cole. She was on the verge of a breakthrough, something that could have changed everything we know about dark matter. James was supposed to be her partner, but instead, he sabotaged her work, took her findings, and published them under his own name. Rebecca tried to fight it, but James had the connections, the reputation. She lost everything." Nina felt a surge of anger. "And you didn't say anything?" Daniel shook his head, his eyes filled with regret. "I didn't know until it was too late. And by then, there was nothing I could do." James covered his tracks too well. Rebecca left academia, and the whole thing was swept under the rug. Nina felt sick. She had heard rumors about James, whispers of his ruthless tactics, but she had never believed them. Now, she was faced with the truth, and it was more horrifying than she had imagined. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel took her hand, his grip firm. "Because I care about you, Nina. And I don't want to see you get hurt. You're too good, too talented to be used like that." Nina looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, the concern. She felt a rush of gratitude, mixed with a confusing swirl of emotions. She cared about Daniel, but James's offer was tempting. The chance to make a real impact, to change the world, was hard to resist. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand. "Trust your instincts, Nina. You've always been good at that. And remember, you don't have to make a decision right now. Take your time. Think about what you really want." Nina nodded, her mind still reeling. She had a lot to think about, and for the first time, she wasn't sure which path to take. As she looked out over the city, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and pink, she felt a sense of foreboding. The choices she made now would shape her future, and the future was looking more uncertain than ever. Chapter 7: Unraveling Truths. The days that followed were a blur of lectures, meetings, and sleepless nights. Nina threw herself into her work, hoping to drown out the noise of her thoughts, but the tension between the Whitaker brothers loomed over her like a dark cloud. James continued to pursue her, offering her more insight into his plans, making promises of success and recognition. He was persuasive, his arguments compelling, and Nina found it harder and harder to resist his influence. But Daniel's words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of the danger that lay ahead. She trusted him, trusted his judgment, but the allure of James's proposition was undeniable. Every time she thought she had made up her mind, a conversation with James would pull her back into the web of possibilities he was spinning. One afternoon, as Nina was walking back to her apartment, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, surprised to see an unknown number. Curiosity piqued, she answered. "Hello. Nina Alvarez." "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Rebecca Cole. I think we need to talk." Nina's heart skipped a beat. "Dr. Cole, I've heard about your work. What can I do for you?" Rebecca's voice was calm but firm. "It's not what you can do for me, Nina. It's what I can do for you. I know you're involved with James Whitaker, and I want to warn you. He's dangerous, more dangerous than you realize." Nina felt a chill run down her spine. "I've heard stories, but..." Rebecca cut her off. "Stories are only the half of it. I've seen what he's capable of. He didn't just ruin my career, he destroyed my life. And he'll do the same to you if you're not careful. James doesn't care about anyone but himself. To him, people are just tools to be used and discarded." Nina's mind was racing. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you remind me of myself," Rebecca said softly. "When I first met James, I was like you, young, ambitious, eager to prove myself. I thought I could handle him, thought I could outsmart him. But he's manipulative, Nina. He makes you believe that you're the only one who can understand him, that you're special. But the moment you become inconvenient, he'll turn on you." Nina felt a wave of nausea. She had been so blinded by James's charm, by his promises of success, that she had ignored the warning signs. "What should I do?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Rebecca's voice was gentle. "Get out, Nina. Leave before he can sink his claws into you. You have a chance to walk away, to build a career on your own terms. Don't let James take that from you." Nina nodded, even though Rebecca couldn't see her. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I'll think about it." Rebecca's voice softened. "Be careful, Nina. James is not someone you want to cross. If you decide to leave, do it quietly. Don't give him a reason to come after you." As Nina hung up the phone, she felt a sense of dread settle over her. Rebecca's warning echoed in her mind, each word striking like a hammer against her resolve. She knew now that she had to get away from James, but how could she do that without drawing his ire? He was a powerful man, with connections that reached far and wide. If he wanted to destroy her, he could do it with a single phone call. That evening, she met Daniel at a small cafe near her apartment. He could see the turmoil in her eyes, the worry etched on her face. Without a word, he took her hand, his touch grounding her, offering her the comfort she so desperately needed. "What happened?" he asked gently. Nina took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "I spoke with Rebecca Cole. She warned me about James, told me to get out while I still can." Daniel's face tightened, his jaw clenching. "Rebecca's a good person. She's been through hell because of James. If she's warning you, then you need to listen." Nina nodded, her heart heavy. "I know. I want to get away from him, but I don't know how. He's so persuasive. He makes me feel like I need him, like I can't succeed without him." Daniel squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with determination. "You don't need him, Nina. You're brilliant, talented, and capable of achieving anything on your own. Don't let him make you doubt yourself. We'll figure this out together." Nina looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. Daniel had been her rock, her anchor in the storm. She didn't know what she would do without him. "Thank you, Daniel. I don't know what I'd do without you." Daniel smiled, his eyes softening. "You'll never have to find out. I'm here for you, always." As they sat together, the noise of the cafe fading into the background, Nina felt a glimmer of hope. She had friends, allies who cared about her. She wasn't alone in this. She could find a way to escape James's grasp, to carve out a future on her own terms. She just had to be brave enough to take the first step. Chapter 8, The Plan. Nina and Daniel spent the next few days devising a plan to distance Nina from James. They agreed that the best course of action was to decline his offer as gracefully as possible, without giving him any indication that she knew of his past misdeeds. Nina would claim that she wanted to pursue a different research path, one that didn't align with James's vision. It was a plausible excuse, one that James would hopefully accept without question. Nina practiced what she would say, rehearsing her lines until they felt natural. She would meet James in a public place, where she could keep the conversation controlled and brief. Daniel would be nearby, ready to step in if things went wrong. When the day of the meeting arrived, Nina felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. She had chosen a quiet cafe near the university, a place where she could speak to James without drawing too much attention. She arrived early, finding a table near the back, away from prying eyes. She ordered a cup of tea, hoping it would calm her nerves, but her hands still trembled as she waited. James arrived exactly on time, his presence commanding as he strode into the cafe. He spotted Nina and made his way to her table, a smile playing on his lips. "Nina," he greeted, taking a seat across from her. "I've been looking forward to our talk. Have you made a decision?" Nina took a deep breath, summoning her courage. "Yes, James, I have. I appreciate your offer, and I'm honored that you would consider me for such an important project. But I've decided to pursue a different direction in my research. I want to focus on theoretical physics, not cryptography." James's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Are you sure? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Nina. You could make a real impact, change the world." Nina nodded, keeping her voice steady. "I know, but my passion lies in understanding the fundamental principles of the universe, not in developing applications. I want to follow that passion, even if it means taking a different path." James studied her, his expression unreadable. Nina held her breath, waiting for his response. Finally, he nodded, his smile returning, though it didn't reach his eyes. "I respect that, Nina. Passion is important in our field. I wouldn't want you to work on something you're not fully committed to." He leaned back in his chair, his gaze piercing. "But I hope you won't shut the door completely. My offer still stands, if you ever change your mind." Nina forced a smile. "Thank you, James. I appreciate that." James stood, his smile widening. "I'll be in touch, Nina. And remember, I'm always here if you need anything." As he walked away, Nina felt a wave of relief wash over her. The meeting had gone better than she had hoped. James seemed to accept her decision, and for now, she was free. But as she watched him leave the cafe, she couldn't shake the feeling that she hadn't seen the last of him. Nina paid for her tea and left the cafe, her thoughts racing. She had taken the first step, but she knew there were more challenges ahead. James wouldn't give up so easily. She needed to stay vigilant, to keep her guard up. When she returned to her apartment, Daniel was waiting for her, his expression anxious. "How did it go?" Nina smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. He accepted it. "For now, at least. I think we are in the clear." Daniel pulled her into a hug, relief flooding his features. "That's great, Nina. I'm proud of you." Nina rested her head against his chest, feeling a sense of peace for the first time in days. "Thank you, Daniel. I couldn't have done it without you." Daniel kissed the top of her head, his voice gentle. "You're stronger than you think, Nina. You're going to be okay." As they stood together, Nina felt a renewed sense of determination. She had faced down James Whitaker and come out unscathed. She had taken control of her destiny, made her own choices. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came her way. With Daniel by her side, she knew she could handle anything. But as they sat together, talking quietly about the days ahead, Nina couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. James was not a man who took rejection lightly. He was out there, watching, waiting. And Nina knew that one day, he would strike again. Chapter 9, Shadows Looming. The days following her meeting with James were surprisingly quiet. Nina went about her routine, diving deeper into her research, attending lectures, and finding solace in the simplicity of academic life. She spent more time with Daniel, their friendship growing stronger, and she felt a budding sense of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, her brush with James's world was over. But as weeks turned into a month, Nina couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was subtle at first, a lingering glance from a colleague, a feeling of being followed as she walked across campus. She dismissed it as paranoia, a natural consequence of her encounter with James and the warnings she had received. But as time passed, the feeling intensified. She would catch a glimpse of a familiar figure in a crowd, the sound of footsteps matching her own in the corridors. It was enough to make her heart race, her skin prickle with unease. One evening, as she was leaving her office, she noticed a car parked across the street. It was a sleek black sedan, its windows tinted. It had been there for 3 days in a row now, always parked in the same spot, always arriving shortly before she left for the day. She paused, her hand hovering over the door handle, staring at the car. She couldn't see who was inside, but she felt their eyes on her, watching. Nina's breath quickened, her mind racing. She forced herself to stay calm, to think rationally. It could be a coincidence, she told herself. A faculty member's car, or a parent visiting a student. There was no reason to jump to conclusions. Yet, as she walked away, she couldn't help but glance over her shoulder, her heart pounding in her chest. When she arrived at Daniel's apartment that evening, he could see the tension etched on her face. He pulled her into a tight hug, his concern evident. "Nina, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Nina pulled back, her voice trembling. I think someone's watching me. There's been a car parked outside my office every day this week, and I keep feeling like I'm being followed." Daniel's face hardened, his protective instincts kicking in. "Have you seen who it is? Did you get a look at the driver?" Nina shook her head. "No, the windows are tinted. I can't see inside, but it's the same car every day. I'm sure of it." Daniel took her hands in his grip firm and reassuring. "We need to be careful, Nina. If James is having you followed, it means he's not done with you. We can't underestimate him." Nina nodded, her fear giving way to anger. "Why can't he just leave me alone? I said no. I made it clear I'm not interested in his project." "Because James doesn't take no for an answer," Daniel said grimly. "He's used to getting what he wants, and he doesn't care who he hurts to get it." Nina's resolve hardened. She was tired of being afraid, tired of looking over her shoulder. She had come too far to let James Whitaker control her life. "What should we do?" Daniel thought for a moment, then nodded. "We need to gather evidence. If we can prove that James is having you followed, we can use it against him. I know a private investigator, someone discreet. We can have them look into the car, see if we can trace it back to James." Nina felt a glimmer of hope. "Do you think that will work?" "It's worth a try," Daniel said. "And in the meantime, I'll stay with you. You shouldn't be alone right now." Nina smiled gratefully, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. Daniel's presence made her feel safe, and she was glad to have him by her side. "Thank you, Daniel. I don't know what I'd do without you." Daniel leaned in, his expression serious. "We are in this together, Nina. Whatever happens, I've got your back." As they sat together, discussing their plan, Nina felt a renewed sense of determination. James Whitaker might be powerful, but she was not powerless. With Daniel by her side and a plan in place, she was ready to fight back. She would not let fear dictate her life. Chapter 10, The Unseen Threat. The following day, Daniel contacted the private investigator, a woman named Ava Green. Ava was known for her discretion and her ability to uncover information without drawing attention. She agreed to meet with Nina and Daniel at a cafe near campus, choosing a table in the corner, away from prying eyes. Ava was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened carefully as Nina described the car, her feelings of being followed, and her suspicions about James. "I've dealt with cases like this before," Ava said, her voice calm and professional. "If someone is watching you, we'll find out who it is. I'll start by looking into the car, see if I can trace its registration. In the meantime, I want you to keep a low profile. Don't make any sudden changes to your routine. We don't want to tip off whoever is following you." Nina nodded, grateful for Ava's help. "What if it is James? What can we do then?" Ava's expression hardened. "If it's James, we document everything. We gather enough evidence to confront him, to show him that we know what he's doing. Men like him rely on fear and intimidation. They are not used to being challenged. If we can prove that he's crossing a line, we might be able to make him back off." Nina felt a flicker of hope. Ava's confidence was reassuring, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she had a chance of regaining control of her life. "Thank you, Ava. I just want this to be over." Ava gave her a sympathetic smile. We'll do everything we can to make that happen. In the meantime, stay alert. If you notice anything unusual, anything at all, call me." With the plan set in motion, Nina felt a sense of cautious optimism. She went about her days with a renewed sense of purpose, her fear replaced by determination. She kept a close eye on her surroundings, noting every detail, every shadow. The car was still there, parked across the street, but now she had Ava looking into it. She wasn't alone in this fight. But as days turned into weeks, Nina's optimism began to wane. The car was still there, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She hadn't noticed anyone following her, but the sense of unease persisted, a constant presence that kept her on edge. One evening, as she was walking home from the lab, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, her heart racing, but saw no one. The street was empty, the shadows long in the fading light. She quickened her pace, her hand reaching into her bag to grasp her phone. The footsteps continued, echoing in the silence, but when she turned again, the street was still empty. By the time she reached her apartment, she was shaking. She locked the door behind her, her mind racing. Was it her imagination, or was someone really following her? She called Daniel, her voice trembling as she explained what had happened. Daniel arrived within minutes, his expression tense. He checked the locks, the windows, making sure everything was secure. "You did the right thing calling me," he said, pulling her into his arms. "We'll figure this out, Nina. You're not alone." Nina buried her face in his shoulder, trying to calm her racing heart. "I just want this to be over. I'm tired of being afraid." Daniel held her close, his voice soothing. "We'll get through this. Ava will find out who's behind this, and then we'll make sure they stop." As they sat together, Nina felt a mixture of fear and anger. She was tired of being a pawn in someone else's game. She had worked hard to build her life, her career, and she wasn't going to let James or anyone else take that away from her. She was stronger than that. Chapter 11, A Glimpse of the Enemy. Ava's investigation yielded results faster than Nina had expected. The car, she discovered, was registered to a shell company, one that was notoriously linked to high-profile figures who preferred to keep their business dealings in the shadows. It was a dead end on paper, but Ava's instincts told her that the car was connected to James. Nina listened as Ava explained her findings, her anger simmering beneath the surface. "So James is having me followed," she said, her voice cold. "What does he want from me?" Ava shrugged. "It could be anything. Maybe he wants to intimidate you, remind you that he's still watching. Or maybe he's looking for leverage, something he can use to control you." Nina clenched her fists, her anger boiling over. "I won't let him control me. I've had enough." Ava nodded. "Good. Keep that anger. It'll help you stay strong. For now, we need to keep gathering evidence. If we can prove that James is behind this, we'll have a case. We can go to the authorities, expose what he's doing." Nina felt a surge of determination. She had been afraid for too long, but now she had a way to fight back. "What can I do?" "Keep your routine normal," Ava said. "But stay alert. I've got a colleague watching the car. If they make a move, we'll know about it. And if you notice anything unusual, anything at all, call me." Nina agreed, feeling a sense of purpose. She went about her days with renewed vigilance, her eyes constantly scanning her surroundings. She refused to let fear control her, refused to give James the satisfaction of seeing her break. But one evening, as she was leaving the lab, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The black sedan was parked across the street as usual, but this time, there was someone standing next to it. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, with a dark coat and a cap pulled low over his face. He was watching her, his gaze following her every move. Nina's heart skipped a beat, panic flooding her senses. She forced herself to stay calm, to act normal. She turned and walked in the opposite direction, her mind racing. She could feel his eyes on her, following her every step. She pulled out her phone, dialing Ava's number with shaking fingers. "Ava, there's someone outside the lab. By the car. He's watching me." Ava's voice was calm, professional. "Stay calm, Nina. Keep walking. I'm on my way. Can you get to a public place?" Nina nodded, even though Ava couldn't see her. "There's a cafe a few blocks away. I'm heading there now." "Good. I'll meet you there. Stay on the line with me." Nina quickened her pace, her heart pounding. She could still feel his eyes on her, could hear the echo of his footsteps behind her. She reached the cafe, pushing through the door, the warmth and noise wrapping around her like a protective shield. She took a seat near the back, her eyes scanning the street outside. The man was gone, the car still parked across the street, but she knew he was out there, watching. Ava arrived a few minutes later, her expression serious. "Did you get a good look at him?" Ava asked, sitting across from Nina. Nina shook her head, her hands still trembling. "No, he was too far away. But I know he was watching me." Ava nodded, her eyes narrowing. "I'll see if I can find out who he is. In the meantime, we need to stay on our guard. This is getting serious, Nina. We can't afford to take any chances." Nina nodded, her fear giving way to a steely resolve. James might be powerful, but she was not powerless. She had allies, people who cared about her, who were willing to fight for her. She would not be intimidated, would not let fear dictate her life. As she left the cafe with Ava, she felt a sense of determination. This was her life, her career, and she would not let anyone take that away from her. Not James Whitaker, not anyone. She was stronger than she had ever realized, and she was ready to fight. The battle was far from over, but Nina was prepared. She would not back down. She would not be afraid. Chapter 12, Confrontation. The following weeks were a blow of anxiety and preparation. Nina's life had become a balancing act between maintaining her research responsibilities and constantly looking over her shoulder. Daniel and Ava were her constant companions, providing both support and a sense of safety. Ava had started investigating the man Nina had seen by the car, following leads that might trace back to James. One afternoon, as Nina was working in her office, Ava called with an update. "Nina, I think we've got something. I had one of my contacts do some digging on the shell company. It's tied to a private security firm that has connections with several powerful individuals, including James Whitaker. This is definitely his doing." Nina felt a chill run down her spine. The confirmation that James was behind the surveillance was both validating and terrifying. "What do we do now?" she asked. "We need to confront him," Ava said. "With this information, we can force him to back off. But we have to be careful. If James realizes we are onto him, he might escalate." Nina's hands were trembling. The idea of confronting James face-to-face made her stomach turn, but she knew Ava was right. This had to end. "How do we do it?" she asked. "We'll arrange a meeting," Ava said. "I'll be there with you, and Daniel too, if you want. We'll present what we have and make it clear that if he doesn't leave you alone, we'll take everything to the authorities and the media." Nina nodded, trying to steady her nerves. "Okay. Let's do it. I'm tired of hiding." They decided to meet James at his office, a place where he would feel in control, hoping that this would prevent any rash decisions on his part. Daniel insisted on coming along, and Nina was grateful. His presence gave her strength. The day of the meeting, Nina's nerves were on edge. As they approached James's office, she could feel her heart pounding in her chest. Ava led the way, her expression calm and confident, but Nina could see the tension in her shoulders. Daniel was close behind, his hand brushing against hers in silent support. James's assistant showed them into his office. It was a large, opulently furnished room, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. James was seated at his desk, his back to the door, but he turned as they entered, a smile spreading across his face. "Nina," he greeted, rising to his feet. "I wasn't expecting a visit. And you've brought friends." Nina felt a surge of anger at his casual tone. "We need to talk, James," she said, keeping her voice steady. "About the surveillance, the car that's been following me. We know it's you." James's smile didn't falter, but his eyes grew cold. "I'm not sure what you're talking about," he said smoothly, his gaze shifting to Ava and Daniel. Ava stepped forward, placing a folder on James's desk. "This is a report from our investigation," she said. "It traces the car outside Nina's lab back to a shell company linked to a private security firm. A firm you've used before. We have more than enough evidence to go to the authorities." James glanced at the folder, but didn't open it. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You've been busy," he said, his voice calm. "But this is all circumstantial. You don't have proof that I ordered any surveillance. You're making a lot of accusations, Nina." Nina took a deep breath, summoning her courage. I know it's you, James. And I'm not going to let you control me. If you don't stop this, I'll go public. I'll tell everyone what you've been doing, how you manipulate and use people. I'll ruin your reputation. James's expression darkened, a flicker of anger crossing his features. You're making a mistake, Nina. I've been nothing but supportive of your career. If you do this, you'll regret it. You'll find yourself alone, without allies, without a future. Nina's fear gave way to fury. Is that a threat? She demanded. Because I'm not afraid of you, James. I have people who care about me, who will stand by me. You don't own me. James stood, his calm facade cracking. You think you can challenge me? He said, his voice low and dangerous. I've built this empire from the ground up. I've crushed people far more powerful than you. If you go against me, I will destroy you. Ava stepped between them, her voice firm. That's enough. We are not here to argue. We are here to give you a choice. Leave Nina alone, or we'll take this to the authorities and the press. Your threats don't scare us. James glared at Ava, then at Daniel, who had moved to stand beside Nina, his expression defiant. For a moment, it seemed like he might lash out, but then he stepped back, regaining his composure. Fine, he said, his voice cold. If you want to play this game, we'll play. But remember, Nina, I always get what I want. You can't hide from me forever. Nina felt a wave of relief and fear as James turned away, signaling that the meeting was over. She knew this wasn't the end, but she had taken a stand, had shown James that she wouldn't be intimidated. As they left his office, Daniel took her hand, his grip warm and reassuring. You did great, he said quietly. We'll keep fighting this, Nina. We are not alone. Nina nodded, feeling a sense of resolve. James might still be a threat, but she was not powerless. She had allies, people who believed in her, who would stand by her. She would not let fear control her life. She would fight back. Chapter 13, A New Beginning. In the weeks following their confrontation with James, life began to return to a semblance of normalcy for Nina. The black sedan disappeared from its usual spot, and the feeling of being watched slowly faded. Ava continued to keep a discreet eye on things, ensuring that James wasn't making any more moves, but for the time being, it seemed that he had backed off. Nina threw herself into her work, finding comfort in the familiar routines of academia. She presented her research at several conferences, receiving praise from her peers, and her reputation as a brilliant young physicist began to grow. The fear that had once haunted her every step was replaced by a quiet confidence. Daniel was a constant presence by her side. Their friendship deepened, evolving into something more. They spent evenings together, sharing dinner, discussing their work, and dreaming about the future. Daniel's support had been a lifeline for Nina, his unwavering belief in her giving her the strength to keep going. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Daniel's apartment, looking out over the city, Nina felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. The night was quiet, the air cool, and she felt safe, content. Thank you for being there for me, she said softly, turning to Daniel. I don't know how I would have gotten through all this without you. Daniel smiled, his eyes warm. You don't have to thank me, Nina. I care about you. I'd do anything to help you. Nina felt a surge of affection, her heart swelling. I know. And I care about you too, more than I ever thought possible. Daniel's smile widened, and he reached out to take her hand. Then maybe it's time we stopped pretending that we are just friends, he said gently. I've wanted to be with you for a long time, Nina. But I didn't want to push you, not with everything going on. Nina's heart skipped a beat. She had been so focused on protecting herself from James, on fighting back against the fear, that she hadn't allowed herself to think about what she really wanted. But as she looked into Daniel's eyes, she realized that he had become her anchor, her safe harbor in the storm. I want that too, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I want to be with you. Daniel leaned in, his lips brushing against hers in a gentle kiss. It was a promise, a beginning. As they sat together, wrapped in each other's arms, Nina felt a sense of hope. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had faced her fears, had stood up to James, and she had come out stronger. Epilogue, moving forward. Months passed, and the shadows that had once loomed over Nina's life began to fade. She continued her work, making strides in her research, and her name became known in the world of theoretical physics. James Whitaker remained a powerful figure, but he kept his distance, seemingly accepting that Nina was beyond his control. Ava's investigation had kept James at bay, but Nina knew that he was still out there, watching. Yet she refused to let the thought of him dictate her life. She had moved on, had found happiness and success on her own terms. Daniel and Nina's relationship blossomed, becoming a source of joy and stability. They moved in together, their lives intertwining in a way that felt natural and right. Daniel's support and love had been a guiding light for Nina, helping her to find her way through the darkness. As she stood on the stage at an international physics conference, receiving an award for her groundbreaking work, Nina felt a profound sense of achievement. The applause of her colleagues and the recognition of her peers were a testament to her perseverance and hard work. Daniel watched from the audience, his eyes filled with pride and admiration. Their journey together had not been without its challenges, but they had faced each one with determination and strength. The path to this moment had been paved with struggle, but it had also been marked by love and support. After the ceremony, Nina and Daniel walked hand in hand through the bustling city streets, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities. Nina felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. She had overcome her fears, stood up to those who tried to control her, and emerged stronger and more confident. In the quiet of their apartment, as they sat together, Nina reflected on how far she had come. She was no longer the woman who lived in fear of the shadows. She had faced her demons, both internal and external, and had come out on the other side. "You know," Daniel said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I was thinking about our future, about everything we've been through." Nina smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. And I realized," he continued, "that no matter what challenges we face, we'll face them together. We've proven that we can handle anything." Nina's heart swelled with emotion. "I believe that too," she said softly. "With you by my side, I feel like I can accomplish anything." As they held each other close, Nina felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led her to a place of fulfillment and happiness. She had found not only success in her career, but also love and companionship in Daniel. The story of her struggle with James was a chapter in her life, but it was not the whole story. Her future was unwritten, full of promise and hope. She knew that whatever came next, she would face it with the same courage and determination that had brought her this far. With a contented sigh, Nina looked out of the window, the city lights sparkling in the distance. She had conquered her fears, embraced her dreams, and found love. Her journey was far from over, but she was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that she had the strength and the support to face it. As the night settled around them, Nina felt a deep sense of gratitude and anticipation. The past had shaped her, but it was the future that awaited her now, a future full of possibility, love, and endless horizons. And so, with the promise of new beginnings and the support of those who loved her, Nina faced the future with a heart full of hope and a spirit ready for whatever came next. The end.